Welcome to the Jeff Crilley Show. And now, here's Jeff Crilley.
Welcome back to the Jeff Crilley Show. This is the final segment, and this is a returning guest and good friend, Elizabeth Scrivner. She is a licensed professional counselor here in the Park Cities area. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. It's so good to be here. I'm excited. I can't wait to hear what we're going to talk about.
Well, one of the reasons I brought you back is you were so entertaining and engaging the last time, and I needed more.
Yeah.
So
we needed more banter back and forth. We've got to figure it out. Okay.
Well, one of the things to me that is refreshing about you is that you can talk tough when you need to.
Straightforward.
And, yeah.
Absolutely.
And there are a lot of, I would say there are probably a lot of people in your profession who they tell the client what the client wants to hear, and sometimes these problems never get resolved because they're just not telling the client what the client really needs to hear.
And sometimes I don't even think they're doing it. That's just their style of counseling, is more listening. And I have a hard time doing that, which most therapists you would not hear say. But I like just to get right to it. First session, whenever I'm meeting with somebody, like, here's what I see. Let's get down to it. Let's get this going. So people either like my style or probably don't. And I'm okay with that.
But if you're one of those people who's listening and you've been to different counselors
Yes.
and you haven't gotten results, tell me more about your philosophy and your approach to your practice.
Okay. Well, I think it's exactly what you just said. I try to be very straightforward, honest. One of the things since counseling school I think that's been easy for me is rapport. So I can kind of connect with people, and then I also say a lot of times that I kind of have a sixth sense, and I can just get to the problem. I just sense it early on,
Right.
and then we can just go right there, rather than listening 2, 3, 5, sessions, months in,
Yes.
and you just get right to it, and you just jump in and go.
Well, when I was on your website, I saw that you really specialize in so many different areas: depression, anxiety, ADD, marriages, family, bullying, divorce, separation. Is there any area of your practice that you especially are drawn to?
People.
Just people.
People, their stories. I like to tell people your story isn't that different, because I like people to know there are other people either struggling or in pain. But I really love people, and I have a high expectation that people meet their best, their best self, if that's the right word.
Yes.
And so I love people. So no, and I love families. I love when, let's say, if your daughter had an issue or somebody else, they would come into your office, but then maybe they might say like, oh, well, I'm going to bring my dad, and we need to talk about this one thing. And I don't know if I said this the last time I was on, but sometimes the words, I'm sorry, go a really long way to, like, let's say an adult child. So I'm kind of using that as an example. If somebody came in, they wanted one session with their dad, but they're mainly seeing me for themselves.
Right.
And just learning some key coping skills. But I think it's huge in January. I'm so glad to be here. November through January are very difficult months for everything that you just said. You bring in just issues from your past, current things, people that are no longer here. There are things that go on, and then you just have to, then you're mixing it in with the holidays, and then in Texas, some of the worst weather.
I have a theory, and you tell me if I'm right on this, that all
It's
of us
wrong.
all of us are flawed. I mean, we're all broken. We all have issues. It's just kind of a degrees of being messed up, and even the people that we think, oh gosh, they must really have it together.
Yes.
Then sometimes we're surprised. I mean, I don't know if it hit you the way it did hit me, but Robin Williams. I mean, he made the whole world laugh. And
I saw, though, in being a therapist,
Yeah.
there would be other people too, actors, but that people that are that funny and that up,
yeah,
statistically also have the downs.
yes,
And so, but I loved him dearly. I thought he was amazing. And so that hit me hard, but that's very common to have those ups and downs. But I think it's this time of year that we need to connect positively with someone. It could be your wife, it could be a child, it could be a friend, a therapist, but connecting when it's colder, when it's after the holidays, you kind of feel a little bit down. It's making that connection with someone. And
Yes.
sometimes just a word, a smile can change someone's day.
Okay, let me ask you this, because when I was in the news business, often I'm interviewing a grieving family member, and I remember in order to be present, I felt like I was taking on their pain. Does that get wearying after a while for you?
So I really, by nature, I can't do that. In counseling school, they were even concerned, saying this is not going to go well, because I do like to take on other people's stuff. But I've been doing this. This is literally my 20th year.
Wow.
I've been doing this
You look great.
in January. And I taught myself, I can't. I have to shut that door. And by the time I go, I've got to leave that there. So I had to set that boundary and learn to do it. I'm not as good with my friends and family, I can say, but with counseling, I leave it.
Yes. I want to bring Sarah in on this because she's a young lady. She's 27.
Sugar is my
Can you
nickname.
believe that?
27,
Just a
yes.
baby.
And I wanted to ask you, because sometimes, you're wanting to talk with a counselor just about everyday life, but what about when you're going through big issues? So specifically, I had grown up seeing a counselor throughout my younger years, but then stopped and started to live life and ended up going through a really terrible divorce. Did I go to counseling? No. I felt like my attorney at the time was my counselor. But
Yes, that's very
looking back,
common.
I really should have come to see you or a professional to be able to get me through that time. And I guess I wasn't
a great time.
thinking
But a lot of
clearly.
times you're just in trauma and you're just going through it, and you just, yes, but they can be a support system in addition to your attorney. I think it's a wonderful thing. A lot of times the attorneys recommend it. Somebody who can just help you, not even with the divorce, but the process of going through divorce can be so traumatic. So I think it's a great time. Divorce is a great time to see somebody. And I like to say this too. Your counselor, if they don't get you, move on. Like, you either get me or you don't. So like, if I have to spend sessions making you believe my story, I got to go. Like, I don't have time for this. And so I want people to know that too. If you don't feel like your counselor gets you, like, move on.
And what about raising children? Do you see patients that come in or clients that come in just dealing with, raising
Constantly.
children?
Yes. I mean, this is what I like to say. I see healthy people. I have clients in my office that are healthy people who just have questions about life. They have a specific problem going on with their child, and we talk about it because as a mother, your first go round, you're thinking to yourself, what am I even doing? Like, what's my goal? Where are we going with this? Am I doing it wrong? Have I ruined them for life?
And comparing notes with other moms is kind of, it's a
very
catch-22.
good. Well, you're right. You got to surround yourself, though, with people who support you, but also let you be you.
Do you find that parenting has become more difficult?
It's exhausting. I don't know. I didn't parent anybody in the 50s, 60s, 70s, but I can say this, because we talked about this, the social media, it's exhausting. And I hope my twins are listening right now, but constantly, you have to monitor social media. They never get to, and I believe we talked about this, they never get to turn it off.
Yes.
We talked about that. Like, you have to turn it off for them.
Well, it's like, you used to know that the high school bully was in school and you could avoid him and walk the other way. And these days, they can hide behind a fake screen name and bully you and call you fat and do that.
We talked about this, Jeff, and this is what I say, though. And I talked to my twins about this and my daughter. If you're in a good space and you're not being bullied, it is your job to help the others who are being bullied. Because bullies can't win with a group. They just try to take on somebody they think is weaker. A lot of times they're stronger.
That is powerful. We've got about 2 minutes left,
Okay.
so I want to get into one more subject. All the trauma that we're seeing on the news, mass murders, there was a streak there where it seemed like every 3 or 4 days there was an internet, it was terrorism, it was mass murders. Do we take that on when we watch TV, and are we traumatized
I think so.
by proxy?
I have good friends that try not to watch the news like before they go to bed. And absolutely, I think so. Yes, we have to process it, deal with it.
And so is the advice, sometimes look away, just
Turn it off sometimes. Now, I can't. So if something huge is going on like what you're talking about, I want to know. When we had stuff going on in downtown Dallas, I want to know. I want to know where my kids are.
Right.
I want to know, no, we're not going downtown tonight or whatever's going on. And I think talking and processing with other people.
Okay, so we've got less than a minute left. So how do people get a hold of you? What's your website?
Okay. It is parkcitiescounseling.com.
And then when they call you up, there's a initial consultation, or how does that work?
Yes. So call me up, text me. A lot of people text me, 214-395-5358. We set up an initial session. The great thing, a growing trend that I have seen in the past 5 years is that you can do phone sessions. You don't even have, some people do not have time to come in and see me.
That's awesome.
And it works great.
All right. Elizabeth Scrivner, parkcitiescounseling.com.
Thank you
for being on the show.
Thank you so much.